In the heart of a quiet village surrounded by fields of golden wheat and green paddy, there lived a farmer named Raghav, his wife Mira, and their only son Arav. Raghav was not a rich man. His hands were calloused, his back bent with years of labor, and his face lined with both wisdom and worry. But in his eyes lived a spark of contentment, the kind that only people who find joy in little things carry. Every morning, before the sun rose, Raghav would walk to his fields with a spade resting on his shoulder, and Mira would follow him halfway down the dusty path, carrying his tiffin and a small brass pot of water. Their life was simple, their dreams small, but their hearts were full of hope. They had only one wish: to educate their son, Arav. To make him the first in their family to step beyond the boundaries of the village, to build a better life. Arav was a bright boy, curious, polite, and full of questions. He loved reading under the neem tree near their small mud house. But education wasn't easy in the village. The school had no proper classrooms, and the teachers rarely came. So every evening, after finishing his day in the fields, Raghav would walk 10 kilometers to the next town to collect old books from a government library. He didn't understand English, but he smiled every time he saw Arav reading them under the flickering lantern light. Mira would sometimes skip her own meals just so Arav could have milk before bed. She would say softly, "If our son's mind grows strong, our home will shine, even if our stomachs remain empty tonight." Raghav would nod silently. Because love often speaks louder in silence than in words. One summer, the rains failed. The land cracked, and the crops withered away. There was no harvest, no grain to sell, no money to survive. Raghav pawned Mira's wedding bangles, the only gold she had, just to buy seeds for the next season. When Arav asked, "Ma, where are your bangles?" Mira smiled faintly and said, "They're safe in the clouds. When it rains again, they'll return." That night, as the wind howled through the broken windows, Raghav sat outside the house, staring at the sky. He whispered to himself, "Let it rain, God. Not for the fields, but for my child's future." The next morning, the sky turned gray. The first drops of rain fell, washing away the dust of despair. Raghav walked barefoot into the fields, his face turned toward the clouds, tears mixing with rainwater. The seeds he had sown with borrowed money sprouted green once more. Years passed. Arav finished his village school with top marks. His teacher told Raghav, "Your son deserves to study in the city. He can become something great." But city education meant money, more than Raghav had ever seen in his life. That night, Mira cooked the last handful of rice and said, "If we can sell the land, he can go." Raghav looked at her, his heart trembling. That land was all they had, not just soil, but their identity, their ancestors' legacy. But when he looked at his son's innocent face, dreaming of a future he had never known, Raghav smiled and said, "The land gave me life once. Now, it will give life to my son's dreams." The next morning, he sold a part of his field. With that money, Arav left for the city, carrying a small bag, a few clothes, and a heart full of hope. Life in the city was fast, cruel, and expensive. Arav studied hard, working part-time in a small restaurant. He would call home once a week, his voice filled with excitement. But slowly, the calls became shorter. The gap between them grew, like a bridge cracking quietly under the weight of time. Raghav and Mira still waited every evening by the postbox near the banyan tree for a letter that rarely came. When a letter did arrive, Raghav would touch it to his forehead before opening it. Each word felt like a blessing, a sign that their sacrifice was not in vain. As time passed, Mira fell ill. The doctor said she needed rest and medicine, things that cost more than Raghav could afford. But he kept working day and night, selling vegetables in the nearby town after finishing his fieldwork. When Mira would ask, "Why don't you rest?" he would smile faintly and say, "Because our son is about to fly. Let me be the wind beneath his wings." A few years later, Arav completed his studies. He got a job in a big company in the city. He wanted to visit home, but each time, he postponed it, first because of training, then work, then promotion. He told himself, once I'm settled, I'll go back. Meanwhile, Raghav and Mira lived in the same small mud house. The walls had cracks, but their hearts never did. Every festival, Mira would make Ariv's favorite sweets and keep them aside, even though he wasn't coming. Sometimes, she would whisper, he'll come next year. But next year never came. One day, a letter arrived from the city. It was written in English, and Raghav couldn't read it. He went to the schoolmaster's house and asked him to read it aloud. The letter said, Dear Ma and Pa, I've been promoted. The company is sending me abroad. Life has been busy, and I know I haven't visited. But once I settle there, I'll bring you both to live with me. Your son, Ariv. Raghav's eyes filled with tears of joy. He folded the letter carefully and placed it near the small clay idol of Lord Ganesha. He whispered, He made it, Mira. Our boy made it. But Mira was too weak to speak. She smiled faintly, tears glistening on her wrinkled cheeks. That winter, a great storm hit the village. Roofs were torn, trees were uprooted, and the small house couldn't bear the wind. Raghav held Mira close, covering her with his shawl. She was shivering, whispering his name softly. He prayed, God, I've never asked for anything for myself. But tonight, save her. By morning, the storm had passed, but Mira's heartbeat had faded. Raghav buried her under the mango tree behind their home, where she used to sit every evening. He placed her old bangles, the ones he had once pawned, on the soil above her grave. He whispered, You are free now, Mira. You gave everything, and left me with love. Months later, Ariv returned to the village, wearing a crisp shirt, a fancy watch, and the fragrance of the city. He had come with gifts and money, eager to show his success. But as he reached the house, he froze. The door creaked open. The walls were faded, the roof patched with straw. And sitting outside, frail and thin, was his father, Raghav. Ariv dropped his bags and ran to him. Pa. Raghav looked up slowly, eyes tired but warm. He said softly, You came, son. Ariv hugged him tight. Where's Ma? Raghav's lips trembled. He pointed toward the mango tree. Ariv's heart broke. He fell to his knees, tears flowing freely. He whispered, I thought I was earning for you both, but I lost the time I could have spent with you. Raghav placed a trembling hand on his son's shoulder and said, Don't cry, Ariv. Your mother left peacefully, knowing her son had fulfilled his dreams. That was all she ever wanted. Ariv stayed in the village for a few months, taking care of his father. He renovated the old house, planted new crops, and even built a small library in the village, in his mother's name. But Raghav's health began to fail. One morning, as the sun rose over the fields, he called Ariv near and whispered, Do you hear that sound? Ariv listened. The rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, and the gentle breeze filled the air. Raghav smiled faintly. That's your mother. She's calling me home. Ariv wept, holding his father's hand. Raghav whispered his last words, Promise me one thing, son, never let love wait. Then, quietly, he was gone. Years later, Ariv became a successful man, but he never left the village again. He built a school on his parents' land, a place where every poor child could study for free. At the gate, engraved in stone, were the words, To the ones who planted seeds they would never see grow, this is for you, Ma and Pa. Every morning, when the children's laughter filled the air, Ariv would stand under the mango tree, smiling. Because in that sound, he heard his parents' blessings. Their sacrifice had not just raised one man, it had raised a generation. Moral love is not always spoken. Sometimes, it hides in sleepless nights, in calloused hands, in empty plates, and in quiet sacrifices. Parents may not ask for anything, but they give everything. And those who realize this truth, never truly lose them. Because love, once sown in sacrifice, blooms forever.